The most powerful woman in Europe did not die quietly. She collapsed suddenly and violently, in the heart of the Winter Palace, and within hours, the greatest scandal in royal history was born. On a cold November morning in 1796, the palace that had witnessed coups, coronations, and executions now faced something far more unsettling. The final breaths of Catherine the Great, and the beginning of a lie that would outlive her. Catherine II lay unconscious on her massive imperial bed, the velvet canopy looming above her like a dark red sky. Only hours earlier, she had fallen in a small private bathroom, her body folding to the marble floor without a cry. Servants lifted her in a panic and rushed her through gilded corridors lit by trembling candle flames. Now she breathed only faintly. Court physicians gathered around her in rigid silence. Their faces were drawn, helpless. They knew nothing could be done. 34 years of conquest, reform, diplomacy, and relentless ambition were fading in slow, uneven breaths. By dawn, she would be gone, and almost immediately, something began to spread through the palace, through St. Petersburg and through Russia itself. A story, a whisper, a seed of poison. It did not speak of her victories over the Ottomans, the cultural renaissance she sparked, the museums she built, or the philosophers she corresponded with. The world chose not to remember any of that. It chose something else, something grotesque. By the time Catherine's body cooled, servants were already murmuring that her death was not natural, that something had happened, something shameful, something unspeakable. And in the chaos that always follows the death of a ruler, lies traveled faster than truth. The rumor claimed the empress had not died from a stroke. It claimed she had died beneath a horse. As the story spread, details mutated like a disease. In one version, she engineered a pulley system to suspend a stallion above her. In another, she had grown bored of men and sought something else. In every retelling, the ending was the same. The harness snapped, and Catherine was crushed beneath the weight of her own depravity. Absurd, impossible, and that was exactly why it thrived. A scandal that vile, that theatrical, that humiliating was irresistible. It slipped from parlors to marketplaces, from the salons of Paris to the courts of Vienna, until the lie became more vivid in the public imagination than truth ever could be. But beneath this cruelty lies a deeper truth. Catherine had terrified her opponents long before they learned to defile her memory. She had not been born to shake continents. She was born Sophia Augusta Frederica of Anhalt-Zerbst, an obscure German princess expected to live a quiet, forgettable life. But Europe's politics often pull the obscure into the heart of storms. At 14, Sophia was chosen as a potential bride for the heir to the Russian throne. That heir was Peter, the future Peter III, a boy who would later prove disastrously unfit to rule. But at the time, he was simply an opportunity. Before she left home, her father offered a single piece of advice. Russia will not adapt to you. You must adapt to Russia. And she did. She traveled across frozen Europe with the determination of someone who understood this was her one chance to escape insignificance. She converted to Orthodoxy, took the name Catherine, and married Peter in a grand ceremony meant to symbolize stability and unity. Behind the spectacle, the marriage was a disaster. Peter was erratic, vindictive, emotionally stunted. He insulted her before the court, played with Prussian toy soldiers rather than govern, flaunted mistresses, and left their marriage unconsummated for years. Humiliation became Catherine's silent tutor. Every insult sharpened her understanding of power. Every cold night beside a man who despised her pushed her closer to a truth she eventually embraced. Survival required transformation, and so she transformed. She mastered Russian until she spoke it more eloquently than many nobles. She devoured books, history, philosophy, political theory. She built alliances quietly, methodically. She laid a foundation strong enough to hold a throne. When Empress Elizabeth died in 1761, Peter ascended the throne and the catastrophe began. Peter alienated the Orthodox Church with abrupt Lutheran reforms, infuriated the army by praising Prussia, and offended nobles with reckless decrees. Worst of all, he made clear he intended to rid himself of Catherine by divorce, exile, or imprisonment. He had no idea how dangerous she had become. For 17 years, she had endured, learned, and calculated. And when Peter marched blindly toward ruin, she acted, backed by the Imperial Guard and the Orlov brothers, one of whom was her lover. She overthrew him. Peter was forced to abdicate. Within days, he was dead. Catherine took the throne at 33. A woman with no Russian blood had seized the largest empire in Europe, and that act cast a long shadow, the shadow from which every later rumor, every whisper, every obscene lie would grow. Some people never forgive a woman for surviving. They never forgive her for winning. Catherine ruled with startling,